store. I got a throttle linkage cable for it, and I also got a Holley carburetor. They didn't have a steering knuckle or the master cylinder. That's fine. I'll get that off the internet. I still have to get the seats and harnesses and some other pieces and parts. I'll make a drive shaft tomorrow if I can figure out how to weld one without making it wobbly. But I got the carburetor. It's just a Holley 600 CFM. It's electric choke. I would have rather had a manual choke, and it is vacuum secondaries, which they're not too bad, but I do like the manual carburetors. Came with the gasket and everything else for it. It also came with carburetor studs, which surprised me, but this one already has them, and hopefully it'll just bolt right up to this intake manifold, and I'll probably use this gasket that's on here already because it's good. Then other than that, I'll have to put the belts on here, alternator, and it should be ready to get the carburetor idle adjusted, get everything on it, and move the battery and stuff like that to the trunk. This thing, it ain't on there too tight, I don't think. Should come right off. Then throw that Holley on there and see if it makes a difference in it. I think it's just the carburetor, because I know this one I rebuilt like 3 or 4 times, and it worked for a little while, and it just, I guess the seals in it would go bad or something like that. So I just ended up getting the Holley over there, and it should fix all of its problems. It should just pull off of there now. Got it off there, and it does have gas in it, so I know gas was getting to it at least, but it smells like been sitting in there for 3 or 4 months. Now let's see if this one just bolts up there if we had to put a spacer on it. Put it on there the right way, maybe. Just like that. Set it right down on there. Well, no we won't. We would have set it right down on there if we would have lined it up right. And no. Doing that one hand, it's kind of, there we go. Sets right on there. Tighten them back down. Be ready to go in a couple seconds. Just the idle mixture, stuff like that. The carb will be ready to go. Sorry for the camera moving around. Doing this one-handed not very easy. And for some reason I always like to move the camera where you guys can't see what's going on. Not intentional. Or I put my hand in front of the camera. Either or. One of them's bound to happen 5 or 6 times during a video. I'll tighten these down. Bolt it down on there. It looks a lot better than that old Edelbrock did. The good thing about this car, since it has this bar in front of it, makes it real handy to stand on to work on. That might be why they did it in the 70s and 80s when they built these gassers. I'm sure it was for some other purpose, but it really does work good for a step. I forgot on these Holleys though. Don't want to lay that. Throw that on the floor. On these Holleys, the fuel line's on the opposite side. I forget they're on the driver's side. But we'll just shove that on there. And when I go get gas and put gas in the gas tank, because it's bone dry, but it doesn't look too bad on there. I have to get an air cleaner and put on it. And it is electric choke, so I got to hook that up somewhere. Don't know where yet. There we go. Well, it will just stay open. So it's the next day, got the fuel lines cleaned out. I still have to put a fuel filter in there because these carburetors do not need anything going through them, especially since it's brand new. Also have to still do the drive shaft, stuff like that. The fuel lines are clean, there's fresh gas in the tank. I drained out what was left of the old gas. It had been in there for probably 2 or 3 months. Still have to do something about the battery over here. And also have to figure out where to put the fuel pressure regulator and mount the fuel pump permanently. Other than that, it's just about ready to start, and we'll see how it sounds with the new carburetor. Haven't adjusted it yet, but it should be close to right. If it'll start. Oh, it's gonna start. No, it's not gonna start. Nope. Give it a. Now it'll start. It's a little rough on the idle, but for not being adjusted, it's pretty good, in my opinion. but have to still put the fuel filter in there and hook up the cooling system. Well, at least the belt system. Spin this. This one's not going to work, and you have to get one that fits the crankshaft. Also have the little steering knuckle on order. It should be here sometime this week. Only thing I don't have ordered yet is the seats and the harnesses. That I'm not sure where I'm going to get them. Also the steering wheel, because it's one of them goofy aftermarket ones that has the bolts. I'm not sure if I can just put a steering wheel on that or not. Someone told me I couldn't and you had to get the adapter, but I'll see. I also still have to put the gauge cluster in there. I do have the voltmeter, which is useless basically. I also have a temperature gauge and an oil pressure. Other than that, there's nothing else in there. I have to get the tachometer and other things like that, but it's coming together. Also, a lot of people ask why the wheels on the front are so skinny, and it's basically due to the 70s style gassers. They ran big, wide drag slicks on the back and skinny tires on the front. A lot of people call them pizza cutters for some reason, but they're very small tires. They're 4-inch wide and they're bi-splice, so whatever grooves in the road they catch. Car pushed out where we actually get to it now. The bed was in the way to getting the doors and stuff open. I have to dig all the parts out of there that go to that truck and put them somewhere. This has just basically been a catch-all for all the parts. Back here you can see where, well, it has a problem about leaking trans fluid and some other type of fluid. That's probably out of the rear end, I'm not sure, but it's a mess. There's trans fluid everywhere. It does have a transmission out of a 67 GTO. It's a Pontiac 400, and the only reason it's in there is because I had it and didn't want to buy one. And also the whole back of the car is full of stuff. You have to dig all this out of here. The steering wheel and all that stuff goes with the 87 GMC up there. This side of the car is still filthy. I get it all cleaned off. Here's some of the chrome that goes with the car, and it's just covered in dirt and dust. Had to finish welding the roll cage in. Other than that, I think I'm going to order a halo for it, and also make this a 10, from an 8-point to a 10-point, and still have to find the seats for it. Other than that, you have to crawl underneath here, measure for the drive shaft, make sure the rear suspension's like it needs to be. I'll probably change it pretty soon because I know I didn't do it exactly right the first time. And look through the pile of drive shafts and see if I can cut one down that'll actually fit. So we're going to get to that. And yeah, the door hinges are really loud and that door does not match on the inside, but we'll get to that later. But got just about everything out of here. You have to clean all the dust out of here because it's just terrible. Also still have a quart of oil and stuff like that in there and some rear window trim. Got all these gauges are in here. They were in here before, but that's how they are. Them holes were in the dash already when I got the car, so I just put the gauges because they fit perfectly back in them. Also, have to figure out what to do with all them wires. And back here, just threw a piece of cardboard over the trans fluid that's everywhere because once you get some water on that stuff, it's really slick. Still haven't done anything with the stuff in the back of the car. Just about to measure for the drive shaft in it. And also, if anyone on here knows how you glue these things right here on, let me know in the comments because I'm not too sure and I'm not sure what you use. Or if you have any 57 chrome, let me know because I'm looking for the pieces that go down the side of this and also the door pieces, but this door doesn't have it. I'll have to drill them in. Got to measure for the drive shaft now, then go cut it. End up pulling the rear end out of the car and redoing the suspension because I forgot when I did it, I didn't exactly do it right. And it just has a Mustang rear end in it, and I used the Mustang arms off of it, basically the traction, the four-link I guess you'd call it, if I can get the words out right. And I used it instead of using Heim joints. The rear end's in there straight, but the pinion angle is terrible. If anyone has any suggestions, leave them in the comments because I really don't want to have to rework the whole rear suspension. But everything in here is all squared away. Have to clean these up, finish welding the cage. I know I've already said that, but still got to do that. Got the gauges worked out now. The key switches all hooked up. It controls everything but the fuel pump now. Controls the cool, all that. Other than that, the cooling system's hooked up. Radiator's in here. It needs some more. Need to add water to the antifreeze, but other than that, just have to put the belts on there. And the bolt I picked up for the steering's too big, so I'll have to go get another one. It's normally how it goes. I measured for the drive shaft. It's like 56 and some change. Not too sure if I want to cut it yet or wait until I fix the rear end. I'll have to decide that. We're going to get to probably vacuum the inside of this out and work out the gauges. Tires off the car to look at the rear end. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought I really just threw this together and it was terrible. I think this will work for now until I get some heim joints and stuff like that and actually put a real rear end in it, because this is just a 8.8, but it is a posi track, or whatever Ford calls their posi track system. It does have coilovers and everything, and it is set up in a 4-link pattern, but it's not perfect. I think the reason the pinion angle is so bad right now is because there's a bolt that needs to go all the way through, which is not, and on the other side the bolt's not all the way through either. I think once I get that done, it'll straighten the rear end up and it should fit better. Next thing to do is find one of them deals right there. I don't know what you call it, but it bolts onto the rear end, and I need it for a Mustang, and that one's for a Ford truck, and it doesn't fit. Then I can cut the drive shaft and put it in there, because the rear end is going to work for a little while. But I do have everything cleaned out of the car cleaned up. Fuel lines plumbed, everything like that. Also have the front brake lines fixed. Next thing to do is find the rear one. I'm gonna have to order that in because it has a divider on it, and it's not just a normal brake line because it fits that Ford rear end, and hopefully I can get one long enough that'll work with that suspension. Lock that on there. The steering knuckle's on its way. It should be here in the next couple days, so in the next video we'll get that on, get the brake master on, and the rear end's pretty much ready to go. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to drive around. Probably wouldn't take it to the track like it is, but we'll work on that. Had to find some seats and stuff like that, but other than that, that's gonna end this video, but we'll start it up one last time for just to end the video. And it's running pretty good now. I got the carburetor and everything set. Next thing to do is hook the torque converter and everything up like that and figure out the shift linkage. But that'll be in next video. See you guys next time.